Well, it's time to start the show.
Welcome to the Portress podcast. Yes, so 2026 season starts now, and this is the AFL season. So with me is Gavin Watson. I'm Matthew Sullivan. G'day, Gavin. How you going, mate?
I'm great, thanks, Matt.
Excellent. Well,
Yourself?
good. Thank you, mate. And what 2026 made it already. There's a lot that's happened since the last time we got together for the season. I guess review at the end of the 2025 season. Hinkley is gone. We've got a big change, obviously, on field with no Travis Boak. That'll just be a big hole to be filled. It'll be there for a while, actually, probably for a couple of years, I think. So, mate, there's a couple of big changes at the club, but also changes here. This will be a monthly podcast. So, literally, this is for essentially the end of February and an early March kind of podcast. So, we'll do a bit of a preview of the last month, but also a preview of the last 2 or 3 months, I guess, in this kind of special podcast for this one now. But generally, each month we'll get together. It won't be every kind of 3 to 4 weeks or every 4. It's just a monthly podcast. Look at it in our socials where we'll promote and let everyone know when the next one is. So basically, it's going to be just us chatting here for about half an hour, 45 minutes each month. And what we're going to do, for example, tonight, guys, we're just going to quickly touch on the changes. What's happened off field, what's happened on field, what it's going to look like. What are we expecting? Do we throw the word rebuild out there? So we'll have a quick touch on that, and then we'll have a little bit of a crystal ball and have a bit of an idea what is happening for the next 3 or 4 weeks before we get together at the end of March. So, Gav, this is going to be great, mate. Just to have a chat with you each month and. Yeah, we will obviously see you on Facebook along with Craig Jones, who does his stuff. But so you'll still be around, and all throughout the month, we'll see your opinions on the team and stuff. But monthly, we'll get together. You and I will get together here and basically sort it all out and sort out all Port Adelaide's problems.
Absolutely.
We're the experts, the Alberton experts.
Sure. Yes.
Mate, it's summer, it's pre-season, so behind me is I'm on the Goldie, so I thought I couldn't think of a better. It's a background, but no, not a background. No, it is. But of course, you wouldn't want to see the real. I'm in the garage somewhere here, but no, this is appropriate background for this topic. It's pre-season, so let's get into it, mate. We had like Josh Carr, do you see in the first year? Let's just talk quickly. Josh Carr's influence, Hinkley out. How much of an influence is Hinkley's departure before we even get Josh Carr in the driver's seat? And then that's a two-parter of this question. Then Josh Carr's influence as well. How much does he kind of bring? See, and the question has a little bit of a bite to it because there could be a bit of a naysayer saying that. You could have got someone from outside, but you just got Josh. You got Ken Hinkley 2.0 instead with Josh. So just give us a bit of a thought before we kind of move on to some of the other coaching changes.
Sure. So yeah, look, with Ken Hinkley, he was at the club for 13 years, and he arrived at the club when Port was on its knees. I mean, this was like tarp time at Footy Park, and we weren't being very successful on the field and were being very unsuccessful off of the field in part because of that.
Yep.
And him along with Koshy, have built the club up to where it is now. And I think part of that's interesting to see that the supporters' expectations were from, well, we need to survive to we're not performing as well as we'd like, so Hinkley out. His legacy is that the side and the club is in a far more sustainable and successful position than it was when he arrived. Like far better position.
Absolutely
interesting to hear some of the players' feedback in a positive sense of Josh Carr and is he Ken Hinkley 2.0? The feedback is absolutely not. He's brought a lot of ideas. Some of the words that the players have used were interesting in that it wasn't a slight on Ken, but for example, Ollie Wine said that it got a bit stale around the side. And I mean, barring the last season, the year before that, we were playing finals. And even even the captain, Connor, has come out and said that it's a breath of fresh air, not just the new coach, but the big change in coaching. And it's early days. I mean, they've had one internal trial and one scratch match, but the talk is that Ken had the run and handball game, and he was very resistant to move away from the style that he wanted. Whereas Josh is a little bit more open to input from all of the coaches.
Yeah.
And he's keen to use the foot skills more, so that the ball retention is.
We've seen the changes. We've seen the changes on field already. I'm also encouraged by Josh feeling comfortable to say, have the language, I guess, in interviews to say that this is my team now, and there's no harm in doing that without. It's not, Ken would have said the same post Matty Primus and my team.
Definitely.
That's not a blot on anyone from the past. It's more him just kind of letting everyone know that don't worry, I am not someone else's. I'm not a puppet for someone else. I'm a man, and that'll come with risk in the decisions he makes. I do think Chris Davies is a massive get for Carlton, and he's just an incredible manager. So, I guess in years to come, hopefully we can say the same for what Rutten has done for Port Adelaide, what Rutten could do for Port Adelaide, as Chris has done for our club. Because in the same light that you say, Hinkley has done so much on field, and it's been great, and off field as well, in his role as a coach. I think post previous other managers to when Chris has come here and what he's done has been incredible, and only enhanced and helped and supported Ken in what has been really some strange and questionable coaching, I guess, contract tenures to get to 13 years or whatever. So, I guess it is a nice change, but let's hope. What's your thoughts? Do you have some concerns? Or you feel pretty comfortable that the smart people put the smart person in Rutten in place?
It's an interesting choice in that if you look at Chris Davies, I mean, he's heavily involved in sport from a cricket background, but very savvy in the building of relationships and from a contract side of things, whereas Ben is very much from a football. He brings a lot of footy intel. I mean, all Australian footballer, been involved at the highest level as a coach with a few clubs. Mm-hmm. So I think that from a Josh Carr perspective, they've put an awful lot of football knowledge with a variety of different voices around him.
Yeah.
I think they've identified that the next step or the iteration of the club to develop is that I think last year we had the second youngest team. And with Bakey moving on, then the average age of the side's dropped significantly. But I think just, an extra person with some footy intel and insight is seen as an important aspect of it. But then also it's a development aspect for Ben Rutten as well. So it has the serious potential to be very much a win-win.
Could we have afforded that? Should we have, I wonder in hindsight, should we have not risked a new person that's not done the role, where maybe someone from our experience had done it in the past? It'd be interesting. But then there's something to be said about him building something here and staying and really feeling like he's part of something when there's a successful time in the future, hopefully. It can be a...
They did look at Peter Bell from Fremantle.
Yeah.
There were a few other people that they looked at. I'm glad they didn't go with Peter Bell. I'm not a fan of his.
Sure, okay.
He's too cut and dried in his approach. But also, I think Ben probably comes with a bit of empathy because of the way that he was treated as a coach.
Right.
So he was quite open in how he found it to be pretty poor taste in how he was pilloried when he was at Essendon. So I think that in the transition initially, well, I'm sure that they'll make a good account of themselves, but there
Yeah.
might be a few lumpy, bumpy bits because it's a change of game plan.
Right, obviously, because there are just changes that Josh is making. And I think, like you're saying, I love what you're saying about Ben Rutten having that sympathy or empathy for the coaches. You were just basically going to say something about Ken Hinkley's kind of the transition from Ken there?
Yeah, as you were just saying, the Ben Rutten side of things was the change from Chris Davies, who had been a stalwart at the club and very supportive of the players and the coaches. And that also included Lauren Arnell in the women's program.
And that does extend there too. So it's really important that he has that kind of good relationships kind of across the board.
And yeah, look, Ben, from his experiences at Essendon, has an appreciation of when things don't go well, what he would have enjoyed as a coach. So I'm sure he'll be well placed to provide the support and feedback, not just for Josh, but primarily Josh, but the whole coaching staff, of which, yeah, changes are aplenty.
Excellent. So we're just going through the speaking of changes now. I guess the people that have a real heavy influence on the players are not just Josh Carr as the senior coach. That's one area. But when you kind of then go into finer detail, each line coach really, you talk about when you hear sometimes players even talk at the end of their careers and they have, there was a relationship with, they sometimes can even have a bit of a deep relationship with someone to the point where, heck, they even kind of will go, if that defensive coach becomes a senior coach somewhere down the line they'll either be an assistant coach under him or go and play with him even if at the end of their career going because the relationships and Josh Carr has already got Jacob Weir
Yeah,
from someone and I think some other players who've kind of been under Josh or played with Josh, so that's a real, and then we'll talk about some of the coaches that had that relationship with Josh, and obviously Stuart Dew's one of those. So that, but it is interesting. Chad Corns gets a bit of a boot, so to speak, and he's not made any light of it. He didn't pretend, I'm looking at leaving. He was loving coaching, and I feel for him, but he's gone to the radio media where all Cornses go, I guess. But
yeah.
but yeah, he's
No,
I love the
he
guy.
did
I wish
say
him
there
the
was.
best.
Yeah, he said he was pretty dark on it initially
I
because him and
understand.
Kari were, and both of them said we're good mates.
Yeah,
Um, so Chad understood why those changes were made and that Kari wanted new voices,
yeah,
and he felt that because there's a change in style, it needed to come from a new voice,
yeah.
just for the uptake. And yeah, nobody likes to be told that you're no longer
No.
required. But everybody understands why it was done, and they've moved on, and uh, yeah, they're back chatting with each other, and
Yeah, so I
but
mean,
yeah, look,
big changes.
the coaches have picked up a role,
Jason
sort of
Williams
experts in
goes
the field.
to Jason Williams to Hawthorn. But like the big ins, and let's focus on the ins. Andy Collins, director of coaching, and his relationship with Josh. I believe knew Josh in the past in some way. He oversees coaching framework across the club. Stuart Dew, senior assistant coach, focusing on the midfield. We've got returned to Port Adelaide because he was from Brisbane Lions as the assistant coach or a line coach there last year. Um, Luke Webster, assistant coach in the defensive group. Darren Reeves, assistant coach for the Fords. Hamish Hartlett, assistant coach, contest stoppage and opposition roles. Elevated onto the AFL assistant ranks through this off-season as he was a AFLW coach, I believe, from my memory.
Uh, he, he started as an AFLW coach.
Got down the line. Matthew Loby is now head of development. Mitch Clisby is joining us, development coach and forward. So I'm obviously looking at the Maggies and the kind of a development there. Uh, Cam Sutcliffe goes to development coach defendant with the defenders. Jake Surgeon is the development coach and the SANFL coach, midfield and
Yep.
SANFL program. So it's good to have Surge as our senior SANFL coach. And yeah, so basically the major shift was part of a fresh coaching direction under Josh Carr, identifying new assistants and restructuring development roles after Ken Inkley's final season, and obviously with Corns' departure there as well. And obviously that we talked about, and we will delve into the changes on field, which kind of aligned with the changes off field. So yeah, no
Yes.
Travis
Yeah.
spoke, no Willie Rioli. We say goodbye to Ryan Burton. We also, who else was departing? Rory Atkins. I mean, Jeremy Finlayson. We're going to the changes will be, uh, yeah. I guess we kind of mentioned anyone there that kind of jumps out at you. Someone will miss or wanted to kind of highlight in particular as someone who
Oh, look, the
you
only
got a
other
soft
ones
spot
that were
for.
delisted was Dylan Williams, Lockie Charlson, and Hugh Jackson.
Yeah,
And Hugh Jackson was probably the one that at the time a few supporters went, well, hang on,
yeah,
he actually showed a bit. But I think that even with the off season and the supplemental selection
yeah.
period, uh, Josh and the rest of the coaches have been very clear on the kind of players that they want.
Right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so like that's sort of 7 to 9 changes. So that's like not super deep, but it's still significant turnover. And
Yeah. And I
it's
think
a
I think there's going to be some heavy. Who do you kind of expect to kind of have heavy influence? I guess is it not just because of the name, but Stuart Dew? Do you like looking forward to seeing what he can do with his role?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at all of the different places he's been. I mean, he was at Sydney, they were successful. He went to the Suns, didn't get as much of an opportunity as he probably deserved, but they're now on the track to being successful.
Yeah,
He went to Brisbane, they were successful after he
yeah.
left. After he left the Suns, he was actually involved with the cricket and the T20 side that won.
Yeah, it was
So
great.
that
Oh,
clearly he steps away from supporting the cricket side, and look how they've just gone.
there's a
Um,
recent interview somewhere along the line. If you kind of just do the good old Googles, and Stuart Dew was interviewed. It might even be just when he got this kind of role, and he was discussing the basically how he's just been absolutely smacked with the lucky stick. He couldn't believe his luck getting a phone call from the Lions. Couldn't believe, traveling. I think he was traveling the subcontinent or something with the. So and I think he's just an absolute ripper bloke to kind of hang around with anyway. From what I've kind of gathered, and
absolutely,
my little
yeah.
bit of experience with him has been nothing but just being friendly and really really awesome, and he's just gives time to the fans and he's polite.
But
So
all of the coaches that they've brought in have all come from various bits of success.
yeah,
In that, Andy Collins at Hawthorn,
yeah.
Luke Webster, his connections through Freo, but he was at West
Brilliant.
Coast, and yes,
Oh, West
they
Coast when they were at their
bottomed
success.
out, but he was also there when they won the flag.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yep.
you've got
Darren
Stuart
Reeves.
Dew,
Reeves with Glenelg.
yeah, with Glenelg. That exactly right.
Yeah.
And Hamish Hartlett has port experience. So they've
Yeah.
brought in people that are or have been successful. So they know what's required. So again, they've all come from slightly different footy walks of life. So that again, all of them individually during interviews have talked about how well they've all connected.
Yep.
And it's sort of with a level of surprise. I think they expected that they'd get along well, but they didn't realise they'd get along as well as they have.
That's great.
And so that again, that gives out a positive vibe, and hopefully that translates into a quick transition of
Going to
the
do the
older
recruiting.
style to the current style.
I think the recruiting was just it's sort of like casting, for a role, you ever see someone and you're just like they were made for that role, and I think Andy Collins will
Yeah,
will probably go down hopefully in some way with our if the success, and if we get a premiership, him and Stuart Dew, those kind of guys that when we hear about, you know, as we hear now sometimes about 20 years later, 20 something years later about that successful era in the 2004s, and we hear about how important that Bucky Cunningham's relationship with, the name is
Mark Williams.
Mark Williams, sorry, with Choco.
No, you're right.
Choco Williams. That to me kind of has that kind of that's what Ben Rutten and the importance of those relationships, Ben's relationship with Andy and Stuart, and making sure everyone's all the egos are in check, and because there's a stack of very high quality and highly driven and big ego people, and so hopefully they can
Yes,
all fit in
yeah,
the room, and well deserved to kind of have not a chip on the shoulder, but be proud of what and why they're in this role. And I just think that
exactly.
I don't want to use rebuild, but also there is a refresh, change, there's no excuses why we shouldn't be, pissing some teams off and being really successful this year on the field still with, only Mitch Georgiades getting better and, uh, Connor Rosie and the other players rising up to another level. I think we'll leave for another podcast for the next month and even some other times we'll get on the socials or something. We'll have a chat and do Zach Butters watch all year. I guess
Yes.
it'll be something like that. There's no that's going to be on the. We'll chat. You can't ignore it. But also, I'm kind of just going to let you know now I'm resigned to him leaving, and it's just any time that if I don't want to say it to him, I wouldn't say it to him, but just if he hears it from me now, like just yeah, maybe like mention it. I feel like we would handle it. The maturity, I don't know. Maybe we wouldn't. Maybe not. But I would. I'd just rather if they're quiet, the more he's just not going to say anything and sign. Because if he did, he'd just sign. So it's
Yeah.
just inevitable. And
Look,
so
the only reason he'd leave is the pull of the family.
I understand.
And
I get it. He's Victorian.
Travis Boak had that issue, and Travis Boak decided to stay.
Yeah, the family came here. So if you're still
money went.
Zach's sisters and brothers or mums and dads kind of living here, then you would go get a feeling. But I don't think that. And I
Yeah.
think that's groovy that he's going back. If he goes back, cool. There's no issue. But it's going to come at a cost. We're going to be demanding some very good
Yeah.
players and some big compensation. But I would rather him stay, but if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. The world's not going to cave in. We'll do a podcast here next year, and we could be still just as competitive. Does Zach Butters actually impact that? Someone will fill the role. So I hope it's Zach staying around, but at the same. And then if you ever saw this, oh, what they don't really care for me? No, Zach, please stay. We love you, but I don't think if you do go, you also don't feel too guilty in the fact that I think the club will be absolutely fine. Yeah. So.
Look, I think performance will have a bit of a say in it. Maybe not a large one, but
Yeah, I hope he.
if the side's having fun and being
Yeah,
positive, and the early part of the season, the draw is gives us that opportunity to get some momentum and start to build that belief.
I hope he's genuinely wanting to think about it. But
Look, he's a white line fever, man. He hits the field like State of Origin. I mean, he was getting up in people's faces, and
so
he was representing the white
for one more year. Embrace it for one more year. And enjoy him for the year that he is here, and hopefully it's more than that. Because look, I don't know how much you know about Jacob Ware from GWS, Corey Durden from Carlton as my not my second.
Yeah, so
they're sort of my
they're
second
both
side.
South Australians.
Yeah.
They've both come back to South Australia. Jacob Weir, he's a hard-running wingman.
Yep.
Probably the only. It's not a knock on him. He doesn't have a lot of height. He can't. Height's not a skill, but he can run all day. He's got a good left foot. Corey Durden, a small forward.
Yeah.
Some goal sense and.
As I was saying, I was just going to let you know.
Smarts.
Because Carlton's sort of my second side through Lynn. It's Lynn's my wife's team, so I watch them all the time and keep an eye on them. And and knowing that when it was interesting that Boki's now kind of is their assistant coach. So and there's a lot of heavy Port Adelaide influence in Carlton, but. On the flip side, we get Corey Durden. I think he's going to be a player that will find the forward line for Port Adelaide more to his liking than the way that the Kerno-centric Carlton were. And was it Kerno or was it I forget the other player in the forward line there that he's got a brother and a defender in Essendon.
Can kick the ball well sometimes, or
I forget his name. McKay.
Yeah.
So when you've got Kerno McKay kind of issues going, Corey Durden will hopefully we've got with Todd Marshall in the back line pretty clear there that he's there's no hiding the fact that he has been basically earmarked for to work with Radigalir and Elir and others in the back line, which is, I think there's some clarity to our forward line, how that, is Mitch Georgiades' forward line, with Jack,
Lukosius.
Jack Lukosius and the other young Jack Whitlock being also.
Whitlock, yeah, Whitlock or
being groomed for that forward line kind of.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I would give Jack Whitlock a whole lot of Westhoff highlights and say, this is how you play the forward role, and then we'll also need you in the back line from time to time. And I think if you give, hey, sometimes there might be a game where Todd Marshall goes forward and he bags 3 or 4 goals, but he's also how good of a strength and a feather in our cap to have him become a key defender, but also know he can go in the forward line. Then Whitlock can kind of be that floating midfielder. Like that, there's going to be a lot of tall players kind of going through the midfield, and like Lukosius, there's a lot of players that I guess there can actually be playing forward and back. So
No,
it's
exactly.
a lot of versatility there, which is great.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the bench now has 5, so
Yeah,
that's the
so much better.
other decision they have to make as well. So
Yeah,
they've ditched the sub. It's 5 on the bench.
5 on the
The other
bench.
bloke, as you touched on, Will Brodie came from
Yes.
Freo. He had his best season when Josh Carr was his coach.
Yeah.
So hence the reason that he came across.
So
Jack
exciting also.
Watkins
Yeah, how
got
good's
picked up
Jack
in the rookie
Watkins?
draft.
Tell us about him because he was playing for the Maggies, and I'm
Well,
I'm so blown
he,
away that he's actually. I'm so excited to see him in the power jumper.
yeah, he's your nuggety on baller,
Yeah.
like half forward pocket type. Uses
Yep.
the ball pretty well. Good hands. And another key part of it that's his great mates with, or best mates with, Zach Butters.
Yes.
So
Okay. So fingers
hey, look,
crossed.
he's won his position on its merit. He's been a very good footballer for the Magpies, and so hence the
Do
call
you
up.
expect him
And
to
then,
get in the power jumper much, or he'll still start with the Maggies, or how?
to
Like,
be fair, I'd say
have you
no.
seen him?
However, like I mean, the small forward position has been like Willie Rioli, sort
Mm.
of
It's
one
up for
good game
grabs.
in 3 aside. There's that, but Burn Jones has been good for a goal a game, but we kind of
Yeah.
haven't really had that pressure small forward that's good for like 2 goals a game,
Mm.
and so there is that opportunity. The other players that they picked up through the pre-season supplemental selection period, today they signed on Ballon O'Brien and Mitch Zadow
Where they're from?
yesterday. Which way around is it? I hope I haven't got it the wrong way around. So Mitch Zadow is a fella from WA, and Ballon O'Brien is the fella from Tasmania that was playing with Norwood in the SNFL. So
Yep.
they did the full train on pre-season.
Excellent. Just put on the Port Adelaide app here. I'll just read Zadow is a mature age small forward who made the move to Adelaide from East Fremantle after 2 strong years in the Waffle. Turning 22 in March. Zadow. I think it's Zadow, isn't it? Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Zadow, yeah.
He impressed at WAFL level in 2025, slotting 18 goals from 14 games, including a dozen in his last 7 games. O'Brien is a 19-year-old dogged defender, has impressed Josh Carr and the coaching group with his athleticism and toughness. So he's part of the victorious South Australian under-18 national champions team in 2025, playing every possible game throughout the campaign. So he's featured 6 times for Norwood's league side. So is he from Norwood originally? So we've got a
I
good
believe he moved over from Tasmania like
radio, yeah,
several years ago, but he's a Tasmanian
originally.
that represented South Australia because of the
And
fact
it's
that
worth
that's where he
bringing
played.
up with that new Tasmanian side. So he will obviously get on their radar if he impresses.
Yes, yeah. So,
Cool.
and
Hey,
Jaden Stevenson found out yesterday from Josh Carr that he wasn't going to be offered a position.
right.
And the other fellow whose name eludes me, apologies, who is Glenelg listed
Right.
at extra long midfielder. He did a large chunk of the preseason
But not on the list.
as a train on, and he found out the other day that he wasn't going to be offered an opportunity. The other player, though, that very recently got asked to have a run with Port is a young fella, 203 centimetre ruckman from North, Alex Van Wyck.
Okay.
He's not eligible to be picked up as an
Right.
SPP player, but Port have only used 2 of their 3 posies. So, given that we've lost Ivan Soldo for the season,
Right. Yeah.
we've got two very good and capable ruckmen in Sweet and Vicentini, but I think as with Marshall going down back, that gives us 5 tools in defence.
Right.
With Alia, Zerk, Thatcher, Radicalier, Ram, and Marshall.
Harrison Ram. It's great. It's
the season is a long season, so not necessarily from an injury point of view, but from giving people a couple of weeks off here and there to freshen up, just because it's so taxing. And they're only ever going to play, I wouldn't imagine they'll play more than 3 tools in defence. So there's always going to be 2 that are missing out, and but that gives us depth in defence. We've got a tiny bit of depth in the forward line, but as Georgiades, as you said, it's his forward line. He needs to stand up from a fitness point of view, and the rest of the forward line structure around him and the way that they bring the ball in is going to be interesting to see.
Going to be interesting to see. I'm not, I'm a little impressed, but no, I'm not blown away in any way by anything that's happened in the first 2 games, the internal trial and the game against Adelaide. But there's still exciting, as you say, when there's such a long season. By the end of the season, we could see people step up and own certain positions on the ground, and Harrison Ram can Jack Whitlock. And then other player. I feel like Will Brodie. And there's a statement to be made for some personal kind of career moves and decisions that will be really important to them to play a really great season and show consistency. But because of the youth, I'll just talk one more question to you about the on-field, and then let's get on to we want to talk about the Port Club. As you said, a couple of little changes in and around Alberton that we wanted to discuss. One being about that precinct thing, and also the 5 changes. Is there any other changes to the AFL game and rules? So let's just discuss that. And
they've reinterpreted or reminded sides of the stand rule.
Yeah, okay.
And so remember last season and the season before, they kept saying outside the 5. So what would happen is I'd be following you, you would take a mark, I'd stop, and then I'd start to peel off.
Yeah.
And what that stopped is you being able to turn around and run at me and throw a handball over the top because I wasn't having to stand. So what they've now introduced is that if I'm following you, the umpire will stand and I have to stand. I can't peel off. And in the last internal trial that Port had, there was in the game in the first quarter, I think there was 5 50-metre penalties because the players just kept rolling away. Against the Crows, I think there was definitely 1, maybe 2 that were paid.
Right.
So
yeah.
The players have adjusted to that real quickly, but I think that's a better way of policing that, so that the person that's on the mark has to stand the mark. They can't run away from it. The other one was
sorry, go ahead. And the other one?
Like the Lassie rule that they have in the AFLW and the SNFL footy between the 50s. It's the last effective disposal. So if someone's kicked the ball or handballed the ball and it goes over the boundary line, then the opposition get the footy.
Yep.
It only happens half a dozen times in the game, so it's not like it happens a heap. But it just speeds the game up. And the other main one is that they don't have to wait for the rucks to come running from halfway across the oval to throw the ball up. They just sort of say who's going for the ruck.
Yeah, and is it no bouncing now?
No bouncing. Yeah, correct.
So
they're all minor tweaks.
Do you think the 5 and the change of the bench will actually change almost the way the game is a little bit played in regards to just? It'll be interesting to see how different teams manage it and manage their rotations and.
It will. I reckon if you give it
fascinating to see.
Round 6 to 8, all of the sides will be very locked in on what they're going to do, because what will happen is there'll be 2 or 3 sides that get off to like Perlers at the start of the year, and everyone will analyse what they're doing with their bench, and then everyone else will start to replicate.
Really interesting to see.
So some sides are talking about going with the extra ruck, and other sides are talking about going with the extra runner. It's horses for courses. I mean, our round 1 side may benefit from having 2 rucks with 0 for North being their main ruck. I mean,
Sweet and Vicentini are out too. Do you think that's basically how you see
the other option in terms of from the internal trial that they could go with is just to go with Sweet or Vicentini, and then have a Lord and or a Whitlock as the second ruck.
Gosh,
So
poor Soldo. Did you hear about that as well? He's done.
Yeah. So just popped his bad knee. So he's had a knee recon. Look, it's bad luck on so many levels in that he was training really well. So all three were in the mix. It's the last year of his contract as well. So he had a bit of bad luck. Even in his first year, he played the first 2 or 3 games, and then he got an injury. And then Sweet was playing really good footy, so he couldn't get back into the side, and then he got an injury. And then last year, he got squeezed out, and then he got an injury. And then he came back and was playing some good footy, and then he got injured again. So, but for all of the stories around him not wanting to be here, and some of them may be true, but whenever he ran out for Port, he gave it a crack, and just a few bad things happened for him at the wrong times.
Any other players and any on-field stuff you want to talk about before we move on?
I just quickly from a internal trial observation. Like you said, no one jumped out, but the game reminded me that Ollie Wines is interesting in that his set shot for goal kicking is fantastic.
Yeah,
he's got a great overhead mark, yet his general field kicking at times can be poor.
Could keep him
I'm not sure.
He might be
correct. I think there's some consideration, like Will Brodie. They talk about Brodie and Wines being, and even Drew in the midfield, all being similar, like balls. But I definitely think like there's definitely place for 2. But now with the 5th player on the bench, there might be a spot for 3. And Ollie playing as a mid-size quality mark, great set shot for goal.
But allows also room for Corey Durden and every other guys around the feet to do their work.
Just something to have a bit of a
control,
different look at it. Exactly.
I like that.
Other than that, there were some blokes in so Jacob Weir had a good game against the Crows. Yes. I wasn't a fan of his internal trial, but that's fine. I haven't seen the pre-season training, but apparently he's trained the house down.
Yeah, apparently.
Whitlock has looked like it still looks a little bit undersized, but I mean he's only 18, 19, and so he's got so many years ahead of him. Ram in defence in the off season he grew 3 centimetres, so he's now 205 centimetres.
Nice.
It's not struggled, but I mean against I can't even think of his name now. The fella from the Crows that he gave him a bit of a touch up and kicked 5 goals on him, and then even when he went off, he went and stood on Taylor Walker, and Taylor Walker just used his experience and held him out, and then took an uncontested mark. So he's got a lot of learning, but the club really like his approach, and that he's a sponge and he's working so hard. He'll play lots of games this year. Whether it's round 1 though I guess that's up to the coaches and the selections to make that final decision.
All right, mate. Well, we've got 10 minutes before we wrap up. Let's get into 2 other topics. I said I saw the email recently. The Port Club, about bloody time. Who was the dingling that thought the precinct? So that's good to see the Port Club, and I think including in that is the shape of the way Alberton around the ground is starting to take shape and looking good.
Yeah. So they went to the members, and the members said, "Look, precinct when you did the redevelopment, sure, that was for whatever reason that's what you wanted to do, but the majority have said the Port Club, so they renamed it the Port Club." The redevelopment of the Alan Scott side of the grounds and the admin part is nearing completion. They've started to install more temporary grandstands in readiness for the season ahead, and also towards the AFLW. Once that's done, then
break the Maggie's games and stuff too. So
correct, and then they'll start the next major build, which is They're calling it a heritage grandstand, so they're going to try and replicate the Bob Quinn and the Foss Williams grandstands around where the Bowls Club is. So there'll be 3 grandstands on that side of the ground.
Yep.
And they've moved all of the women's
That's great.
main change and facilities so that it's all in the one building now. So SNFL, AFL men's and women's
Awesome.
are all in the one space. So that's only a positive.
Now, I do want to move. If you're good to, I'm going to add this real quickly into our last couple of minutes. Russell Johnson and Matthew Primus are life members.
Oh, yeah.
And,
No,
that was something
congratulations.
that congratulations to them. Yeah,
Well
absolute
deserved.
legends.
Yeah.
I don't want to overlook that. So, wow, that's awesome. That just brings that's emotional. That's pretty cool. I love Jono like crazy, and ironically, those
Yeah.
two players kind of there's some similarities with those two players. I would not be surprised if Matt Primus in any way was inspired, or at least when he got to know Russell Johnson's history and involvement and his left impression on our club. And he's so humble, man. That Russell Johnson's an absolute, just off field as well,
Yeah.
incredible person. That I reckon that Matty Primus could possibly say, yeah, someone like Jono and what he brought to the club when he was a captain, and now
Yes.
and Matty Primus became captain. It's special.
Yeah.
It's done really well, and congratulations to them.
Yeah. No, well, the Russell Johnson was selected in the team of the century as the ruckman. So that in itself says it all. Exactly. The other thing just to quickly touch on is the AGM. So there's the Port AGM on the 26th. So yeah, for those people, the many people watching the podcast, if you haven't voted and you're a member, obviously it's not compulsory, but if you want to be involved in who is making the off-field administrative decisions at the club, then here's your chance.
The candidates are Vito Borello, Michelle Dunstan, Abby Taylor, Kim Downey, Justin Leckie, Lewis Leventis, Kirsty De Gabriel, Thomas Jonas. We might know that name.
Yes.
Brett Hill and Ben Haynes. Now, Ben Haynes has reached out to me about a month ago. Ben, if you watch this, and I will get back to Ben. Ben, I've not ignored you, but it's something that I probably just wanted to kind of keep away from the election stuff. I'll probably have a chat with the candidate afterwards if they wanted to just chat with him. But I didn't want to get involved in the election stuff, but also didn't ignore it because I just saw the email like 2 days ago. So sorry, Ben. But no, good luck to you, Ben, and good luck to everyone there. I hope the winning candidate has a good impact and a positive impact in our club.
Yes.
Mate, if we can just leave the last couple of minutes to some, I want to steer away from the crystal pairs, but just crystal balling in general for the next month or two. When we get back together, essentially will be pretty much the last, Monday of March. So we'll kind of rip into April's games. So when we get into our next podcast, we've already experienced seeing the March 1 trial against West Coast over in Perth this Sunday. And then we've got to see 3 rounds. So we're going to take on the 15th, pretty much 2 weeks later, against North Melbourne in Melbourne.
In Melbourne at Marvel. Yep.
Home against Essendon, and then two home games against Essendon and West Coast. Am I being a little arrogant and a bit ahead of myself by thinking there is a realistic chance? Could we really dream of a 3-0 start? Is that too cocky for a rebuilding?
No, we can't. There's pros and cons to playing sides that are low on the ladder at the start of the year. One of them is that you can get your confidence up, but the risk is that they're all fresh, so they're going to give you they're sort of
they're full of hope. They're full of hope and they'll play their best. And, you're getting them at their best. So, and you're not to know that by the end of the season, those 3 teams could be having be in the top 8, and we took them for lightly and we were 0-3. So no, I know what you're saying. Yes. Just with 4 minutes to go, what's your expectations in the next 4 games before we get together prior to round 4?
Look, as with the game against the Crows, the West Coast game, it's a trial match. So Port new structures. this will be close to the side they'll pick. Will be close to the round one side.
Yep.
But again, they're not going to show all of their hand to West Coast. They're playing them a month later, so
exactly.
you're not going to give them the A1 version of yourself.
No.
But that they'll be keen on some of their structures, making sure that they work.
They look pretty good against Brio, so they've they're not the dopey West Coast anymore. So yeah.
So the first three rounds, obviously for any side, but in particular this season for Port, we've got three sides that, on paper, if we've got Zach Butters running around in the midfield, Horn Francis playing to some capacity in the midfield and the forward line, and Georgiades in the forward line as well, then there's no reason why we couldn't be 3-0.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's a lot of water to pass under the bridge, but there's no reason why we've got the players to be able to put the score on the board, and we've got the midfield to stress most sides, but particularly those three sides.
Be interesting to see, look, North Melbourne got smashed by Melbourne on the weekend. So, again, hopefully the boys don't kind of take that result easy as well. And they just really kind of see every game and its merits. So, mate, as we just wrap up, I just wanted to kind of say I'm looking forward to this podcast with you. It's going to be on a monthly basis. So for our listeners and viewers here, we'll get together again, basically, for the end of round 3 before round 4. Which goes into April. And what we'll do, each podcast is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a little 3 to 4 game review and a 3 to 4 game preview. So we've got basically a pretty chunky podcast each month with lots of stuff to talk about. I guess the greatest thing about this too is it's just, we can really get straight in. We're going to see over a month a lot of changes and stuff as opposed to a weekly kind of thing. So that way we've got lots to talk about. We can see the improvements, see where they kind of had a tough month, and it's going to be really interesting. And it will be. 2 or 3 podcasts will be 8 to 12 weeks, and you're going to see how the team has just coped with the longevity of the season. So with a minute to go, mate, just your thoughts on the podcast, your involvement here for the next month. What are you expecting to quickly, talk about in the next month?
Oh, look, being 3-0 is what I'm looking forward to.
Fingers crossed.
And look, again, as with the AFLW podcasts that we've done, just looking forward to having a bit of a fun chat about where we're at, what we can do to be better. Enjoy the beach, be sun smart. Don't get bent.
Real quickly too, as I said, we'll have this chat. So we still have our Facebook and Facebook Live stuff. Craig Jones will be doing live stuff on the Facebook, but also too, we'll get you to be doing what you've done and still just give your input as well. I'll be jumping on Instagram and Facebook at times, so social media. Keep an eye on the Portress podcast, and then that way, between that month before we ever get back together again, there's things to talk about and we can reflect, and it'll be a great time. So keep following us. Thank you very much for following the Portress podcast. Gavin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Sullivan. See you next month in the Portress podcast. Stay tuned.
Go the power.
Go the power.